collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Class Cyberverse Universe Shadow Striker from the Transformers Legacy Evolution line from Hasbro. So I'm pretty excited for this one. I will be honest though, I'm more excited for the fact that this is an obvious pre-tool of Robots in Disguise Sideburn / Car Robots Speedbreaker, because I love car robots, and so I'm very excited to be getting more characters from that show. But I'm a very big fan of the character of Shadow Striker as well. I don't know how well this mold is going to fit for her, but we'll take a look and we'll see how it goes. Over here on this side of the box, we have some nice artwork of the robot mode, some artwork of the vehicle mode here on the front. Got your standard evolution pick there on the side. QR code for the tech specs. Nothing going on the bottom. Spinning it around to the back, we have some product shots of the robot mode and the vehicle mode. And then, of course, the Evo Fusion gimmick is just attaching these two pieces here. Now, the reason this is mostly done is to more closely resemble one of Sideburn's weapons. But I guess they can count it as Evo Fusion here as well. Very flat looking vehicle mode, so we'll see how that works out. But yeah, let's go ahead, let's get this one out of the packaging and we'll take a closer look. Here is Shadow Striker out of the packaging, and it's a pretty cool mold. I will say it doesn't really invoke Shadow Striker to me. In the Cyberverse cartoon, she had kind of a Frankenstein type body where she had, multiple pieces of different Transformers, and, her arms and legs didn't all look the same. And this is very clear cut, everything's uniform and symmetrical. So to me, it doesn't really invoke Shadow Striker. I will say that the head sculpt is very good. I think they did a great job with that. She's got that one giant eye. The colors look great. The red paint's very nice. The silver paint for the face. And I think they did a really nice job with the head sculpt. But the rest of this mold is very clearly Sideburn from Robots in Disguise. I mean, it's got the door flaps here on the back. The original Sideburn, it was like part of the hood of the car and the engine. So this engine piece on the chest is obviously very Sideburn, and that was on the hood of the car. And then these pieces on his back were part of the hood and I think the doors, and they kind of went up and fit around that engine block. So they just have the doors here kind of fulfilling that same look. And then again, I already mentioned the chest plate here, which is very much right from Sideburn from Robots in Disguise. And then we have the accessories as well, which are very Sideburn. So you have this piece here that can peg into either arm. I don't remember which one Sideburn had. I kind of want to say it was this arm, but I don't remember. So how this works is it's on kind of a double hinge here. So you have a hinge here and a hinge here, and you can kind of just bend it either way. So you have a little bit of option with that, but you're going to peg it into the side of the arm here. And it can be a little difficult, but then once you get it in, you're good to go. You have some options. You can leave it straight out like that, kind of compress it this way, kind of compress it that way, whatever way you like the look of the best. I kind of like to put it towards the back like that. But again, Sideburn had the same kind of thing where the whole roof of the car was attached to one arm. I will say this is much easier to transform. Sideburn had so many clearance issues. It was a fun mold and I loved it, and I love all the characters from that show. But you had to kind of get this turned around, and then the arm had to rest here and sit down, and it was a mess. So this is kind of parts forming, but in a way I think that was definitely the way to go, because it's so much easier to transform this way. You can just take this off, transform the thing, and put it back on. Now, if you want, you can leave it on. You can leave it on for the transformation. I'm going to take it off because it's much easier. So I kind of like it as an accessory like this instead of an integrated part of the arm. It is, of course, a translucent red piece painted purple, so it doesn't match 100%, but they did a pretty good job. Honestly, I think they did a pretty good job of matching that. Now, other accessories here, we have this gun, which she can hold like a sword. You can see how it kind of has like a hand cover here, and then there's kind of some serrated... I'll be honest, it doesn't look much like a sword, but they did their best. They put this little serrated bit here to kind of make it look like a sword. So if you want to go ahead and pop this into her hand. Now, you have this weird tab here. So her hands are kind of open, and you have to put that tab in the open section of the hand. Once you get it in there, then you can move it around, but it's kind of a weird little thing. So she can hold this as a sword, or you can take this back out, and then you have this other back piece that you can peg into here, and then this will kind of resemble Sideburn's weapon. So again, more parts forming that I know a lot of people are complaining about, but I believe it was done to achieve this because, again, with Sideburn, this was one solid uniform piece, and this pegged into the back of the car, but there's nowhere to put this piece here in the transformed mode, so that's why they had to do it as two separate pieces. So again, it is parts forming, but I kind of prefer it just because it would be kind of a mess otherwise. And then she can just hold that as a gun. And I believe the original toy had a spring-loaded missile, obviously. Don't have that going on here. But yeah, this is going to be a fantastic sideburn, because this is essentially just purple sideburn with Shadow Striker's head. Doesn't really read Shadow Striker to me. I still like it, but they could have maybe painted the one leg a different color, or molded this forearm slightly different. I understand that that kind of defeats the purpose of a pre-tool, but if they really wanted to go with Shadow Striker, they could have done a little something to give her that kind of Frankenstein-esque quality. They did with the head. She has the two different eyes, and the head sculpt I think is good. But for the most part, it really just feels like purple sideburn with a Shadow Striker head. But it doesn't mean that it's not good. So I've gone ahead and removed the accessories just for simplicity's sake, so we can talk about articulation here. Now with the head, you have a joint at the base of the neck that can go front to back, and then you have at the base of the head a side-to-side swivel. So it's not the same joint, it's not a ball joint, but you do get the motion out of the neck that you would want, and the head. No side-to-side tilt or anything like that. These door pieces on the back, you can swivel them up. Something like that. I almost kind of wish that for her, they could kind of swivel around and maybe be at like a 45-degree angle or something, just to give her a little bit more to differentiate her from Sideburn, but they have that hinge, so that's about, 90 degrees you can get out of that. The way the arms work remind me very much of the like hoist / trail breaker mold that we got from Earthrise, I think, that's been kicking around for a while, because they're kind of connected to the back piece here. So they're not actually connected to the torso where you would expect them to be. They're kind of sit back slightly. And then you have a swivel here, so you can get like 180 degrees of motion out of that. And then you have a hinge so that they can come forward. So the Trailbreaker / hoist didn't have that hinge, so all he could do was kind of out to the side. So I appreciate that they gave us the hinge, because she can bring her arm up very normally and face her arm forward to hold a weapon. So I do appreciate that hinge, because, like I said, we didn't get that with hoist. You have a bicep swivel there, 90 degrees in the elbow. You have a wrist swivel. Some really nice detailing here on the arms. Have some nice paint. Got a Decepticon symbol there, which looks really nice. And just all of this paint here on the chest looks absolutely fantastic. A little bit down here in the lower abdomen. And I talked about it a little bit, but that head sculpt is just really, really sharp. I like that quite a bit. Easily the most Shadow Striker part of this toy. And they did a really nice job with that head. I like that quite a bit. Back here we have waist swivel. And it's not here where you might think it would be. It's actually kind of where this smaller section meets the abdomen. So that's where you get the swivel there. Nice range of motion here in the hips. Kick really far forward, really far back, really far out to the side. So that's nice. Have a thigh swivel there. You have 90 degrees in the knee. Now the way this works, see how there's kind of a little tab here? That's going to tab when we get into the transformation. You have to tab that in. So you kind of have to tab the leg in for transformation. So when you're getting it out of the box, you have to untab that to get the knee articulation, because in the box they come tabbed in. So if you're wondering why your figure doesn't have knee articulation, you just have to untab it. You have some front to back. You can't go back this way, but you can flip this way because of the transformation. And then you have ankle tilt. Really nice there. So, I mean, good articulation. I don't have a problem with anything. Like I said, I just wish she looked a little bit more like Shadow Striker. I'm very excited to get Sideburn, but this definitely doesn't have the full feel of Shadow Striker. I still think it's a fun figure, and I love the head sculpt and the color scheme and the paint. It's all very solid. She had that Frankenstein quality to her, was like a big part of her character, because she was constantly in battle, getting messed up, repairing herself with whatever parts she could find, and it was kind of a cool, part to her character, and that's kind of lost here with this, but I still think it's a fun figure, and I'm very excited to see it as Sideburn / Speedbreaker. Let's go ahead, let's get into the transformation. So the transformation is actually really kind of neat. The way like this backpack here is going to come off and lay completely flat. And then she kind of throws her legs back behind her head and just kind of lays down. And it's kind of interesting, but you'll see what I mean. So we're going to start off by clicking those knees into place like that. And then we can take those feet and flip them up like so. Then we're going to come to the back here and we're going to flip this part down. So you can see that the arms are connected to this piece. And you can see that there's this giant black piece right here. You can see the pin. So we're going to unpop this. And then this whole thing is going to go all the way back. And then there's a double joint here. That's going to lay down. So you can see that that entire backpack is now just all the way down like that. Next, you're going to take, let me zoom out here a little bit. Oop, there we go. Bring the arms out of the way. Just kind of bring them straight. There we go. And then you're going to flip these pieces up. Actually, I guess I did it the wrong way. They're supposed to go out to the side like that. So that they will be up when you flip these pieces on this little pin right there. So that goes up. Make sure the doors are out of the way. So you can see what I mean, how the car's kind of coming into place here. So we're going to take these pieces here and kind of fold them down a little bit so that this whole thing can clear and come out. Now you might be tempted to flip this all the way up. It's not going to do that. And you don't want to force the joint. So you do it to kind of a 45-degree angle. And then you can flip these pieces out. And then there's a tiny little piece underneath. Right, whoops, as I hit the camera. Right here. And that is going to flip around and fill in this little gap right here. So push that up. And now you've got kind of the front of the car. This is kind of the most annoying part. So you're going to bring this around. You can see that there's a little tab right there. That needs to tab into this little part of the thigh right there. And then there is a tab slot right here, which is going to tab in to these two spots right here and here. So you kind of have to bring this in. And the reason I say it's kind of annoying is because you have to bring it out so you can tab that in. But the door and everything over here is kind of in the way. So you kind of have to bring it up, push that in, and then bring this and click that into place. And you need to make sure that that's all the way in, or else this part's not going to come down around it correctly. So bring this in, make sure that's tabbed in, and tab this in back here. And then I like to try to push these sides together, because you can kind of see that there's these like slight little tabs, just kind of raised areas here that need to go under here. So when you push those in, kind of bring this down, and then this will, you kind of bring this over the hips. So bring this all in, and that'll kind of click into place. You'll hear it click into place, and then that's the whole front of the car right there. At this point, you can go ahead and just, this little clip here is going to clip in right there. So just bring the doors in and clip those into place. And then you can see that there are two tab slots right here on the bottom of the forearms. And they are going to tab in right there and right there. So just drop them straight down and they will tab in. And one of them tabs in really nicely and the other one doesn't. And it might just be that I don't have the fist lined up correctly. But basically, once that's all tabbed in, there is your car without any accessories. There is the car with no roof and no back. So we're going to go ahead, bring those pieces back in, and let me zoom out here a little bit. So it doesn't really matter which arm you want to peg it into, because you can use the joint to make it work. So if you want to just peg it into one of the arms here, and this does move around a lot, I'll be honest. You kind of have to just grab a hold of it and make sure that's all the way in. So then when this goes back down, then you just tilt this. The arm is moving on me. Stop doing. There we go. Push. And then there'll be little clips for it to peg into. There's two little tabs here, and there's two little tabs here, and then there's tab slots underneath on the roof. So you just push that all down. Looking a little bit more like a car. Bring this in. Pop that off. This large peg right here is going to go here, But then there's also tiny tabs right there that will go into these two spots. So we're going to go ahead and pop that on. And then there you go. There is... Why are you popping up? There we go. There is your very sleek and somewhat flat vehicle mode. So it's a very interesting little vehicle mode. It's just kind of funny because like I feel like all of this part of the car is very in proportion, and then the tiniest little roof was put on top. I feel like this should be a little bit bigger, but obviously then you have a ridiculous shield which looks a little weird, or again it's just more plastic, so that drives cost up. But it's just this little part is just not quite in proportion to the rest of the car. This part of the car all looks fine. I guess we could try to make it a convertible, but that would look a little weird. This needs to just be a little bit bigger to kind of fit the proportions of the rest of the car. It's not a big deal, but it does look a little off. It's very smooshed. It's just kind of funny, but really nice paint applications. All this red here on the tires, I think looks really, really nice. Of course, the same chest engine block that we've seen. This paint here, I think looks really nice as well. You got that little bit of red and silver there from the like lower abdomen crotch area, but now we have this nice metallic blue for the headlights. The front of the car is also kind of weird. Like when you look at it front on, it looks really strange, but then like from this angle I think it looks okay. And you really don't see too much robot kibble underneath, obviously the legs and the feet, but it's all tucked up very nicely and it works really well, and you don't see the head or anything like that. So it just feels kind of like a smooshed car. It's an interesting little alt mode. I like it. It is weird. And like I said, this part is definitely not in proportion to the rest of the car. But I still kind of like it. And I'm very interested to see what they'll do for Sideburn, because he had those awesome like blue flames, kind of like hot rod on the side around the engine block. So that should be pretty cool. But yeah, we'll have to see what they can do with it. You can take the weapon and just peg that right onto the top here. No issue whatsoever. I guess technically if you wanted, you could peg it into the back as well, if you'd rather store it back there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of a flattened little vehicle mode, but it's growing on me. So at the end of the day, I like the mold. It doesn't necessarily feel like Shadow Striker to me. It really just feels like a purple Robots in Disguise Sideburn with a Shadow Striker head. It kind of feels like a BotCon set where they take an established toy, give it a new paint scheme and a new head sculpt, and put it in a box set. That's kind of what this feels like to me. Again, I don't hate it. I think it's a fun mold. I love the paint. I think the color scheme's good, and I really do like the head sculpt. I just feel like the very essence of Shadow Striker is her kind of Frankenstein type, you know, body type with all the different parts of the different robots that she's had to use to repair herself over the years. And that obviously is all gone. This is a very symmetrical body type, so it's not invoking the main essence of the character for me, if that makes sense. I know it's maybe a stupid thing to complain about, but I feel like that's a very specific character trait, or I should say part of the character's lore. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And this is not here. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's a fun mold. I think it's going to be a fantastic Sideburn / Speedbreaker. It's really just up to you. Do you love Shadow Striker enough that you'll take this because you just want some representation of the character? Will you just wait for Sideburn and you'll pass on this for now? It's really going to be up to you. Your mileage is going to vary with this one. But I do think it's fun, and I'm glad to have it in the collection. I mean, this is how they get you, right? It's a pre-tool, so it's like, it's a new mold, you're going to buy it. And then later on, it's like, but here's the thing you really wanted it as, and you go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that too. They know what they're doing. They got us. But in any case, I do think it's a fun mold, and I do think it's a fun little representation of the character. I just don't think it's as evoking the character as they want it to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I want to hear your take on this. Do you agree that there should have been some kind of Frankenstein-esque nature? I mean, even if it was just to paint like one of the legs and one of the arms differently, just to do something. Just to give her, it's a large part of the lore of the character, and it's just been completely skipped over. Again, maybe I'm thinking too much of it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But at the end of the day, I do think it's a fun mold. It's really just up to you. Do you want this version? Do you want to wait for Sideburn? Or get them both? Up to you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.